My grandparents lived in the Shropshire Hills, and we used to go for a week's holiday every year. I'm talking about late 40s, early 50s, and they didn't have any running water. They didn't have electricity. They had no power, anything. They had to get the water from a stream outside. All I wanted to do was play in the fields. And my grandfather was he was a sheep farmer, so all day we'd go round the fields and checking up on the sheep, and then sometimes help if it was a bit later, helping with the harvest. And I couldn't wait to get there because it was just fascinating for me. And he grew all his own stuff.
There's one place which is very special to me, which I'll mention. It's the Fallowfield Loop, which I know quite a few people are aware of. And it's an ex-railway line across the suburbs of South Manchester. And it's now essentially a 14-kilometre avenue of trees and wildlife. And I use it about 2 or 3 times a week for my exercise. And to me, I always think it's a bit like Narnia, going into the Fallowfield Loop, into this, in the middle of suburban Manchester, you're suddenly in this band of a different world, really, a natural world, away from the bustle and chatter of the suburbs. And it's not just the place for me, it's not just the place of physical exercise and mental kind of cleansing or resetting, but most importantly for me, it's a place of spiritual connection. We know that God is always present to us, but there's only certain times that I'm consciously aware of being present to him. Obviously in church services is one, but times on the loop very much so for me, times of spiritual connection and being close to God.
I don't know if you've seen the cartoon film Ants. It's the sort of thing you watch with your kids. So you watch the whole film, and then at the very, very end, the camera, if you like, pans out, and you realise that this whole film and these big adventures and journeys and everything have happened in a tiny little puddle just by the side of a road somewhere in some kind of African city or something. And it just pans out bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And you see that, all that mattered, all that was everything, is just in this tiny, tiny bit of a massive, much bigger world. And so I guess that's the challenge for me, to remember that, to remember how small I am and how God is beyond my dreams and imaginings.
You hear people say now that they won't have any children because they're worried about the future. But, I mean, when I was their age, 20s, 21, we didn't have any worries about the environment. But you see, and one of the things I think about is it's not God that's destroying the natural world, it's us. We're supposed to look after things on his behalf, really, but we're not able to do that. And it's, ripping down the forests and things. It's greed, basically, isn't it? They're doing it because it's a short-term way of making money.
What I find very depressing and really kind of gets me here is on the loop, for example, is the litter. The litter generally, and fly tipping. There's quite a lot of fly tipping at certain places on the loop, and it's just so depressing, really, that the mentality and the attitude that someone else will clear it up or pick it up, and of course that kind of mentality at the very micro level is the same mentality at the macro collective level, to do with the plastic in the oceans and the deforestation and everything.
They had a mixture of materials, one of which was a video clip of a guy called David Ulansey talking about the 6th mass extinction. And it's just a very powerful video. And this is back in 2005, just showing the kind of state of the planet and where everything's headed. And at the end of this, they say there was this video where he just talks about the way that he kind of runs through the statistics of the elephants and the tigers and the lions and the immensity of all the numbers and the data, when you kind of, even when you look at human suffering, it doesn't quite get to you as much for some reason as when you see you have the thought that, you know, these animals, these species aren't going to be here anymore, you know, that they are what you've grown up with, and the sense of loss, the grief, you know, it's overwhelming.
I don't know about you, but I'm full of hope. And I think Christian hope is not just to kind of, you know, that kind of hope, hoping for the best and blind optimism, but it's a hope based on, well, there's lots of promises in the Bible. For example, that verse is in the Psalms about, well, the earth remaineth, seed time and harvest, day and night, summer and winter will not cease. That one, but also the hope within nature. I was very, yesterday I watched the service, and I was very interested and moved by what David said about the power, the power in nature. And insofar as I have been observing nature on the Fallowfield Loop this last few weeks, watching those snowdrops and crocuses push their way up through icy earth. And you think, you know, they're very delicate and beautiful, but they're incredibly resilient. Nature, you know, will win through. I remember that film a few years ago, Love Wins, and I was thinking, love wins. It's like nature wins. Nature will win in the end. You know, it's our role, if you like, to be part of it and to cherish it and to help it and be stewards.